My name is Benjamin Coleman. I'm 70 years old. For the last 6 months, I thought I was just a burden to my own son. Last Sunday at dinner, my son Leo hit his fist on the table and yelled at me, "Give my wife your room or get out of here right now." He screamed in the 2 million house I had paid for. I just nodded, packed a small bag, and walked out the front door. They celebrated that night, I'm sure. They thought the foolish old man was finally gone. They had no idea I had already called my lawyer. They didn't know that by asking for my room, they had just started clause 4.b of a contract they never bothered to read. A clause that means in 30 days, I won't just own my room. I'll own the entire house. Before I tell you how this happened and how I finally turned things around, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you've ever felt looked down on by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe because you are going to love how this story ends. It started like these things often do, with a quiet Sunday dinner. The air in our Westlake house felt colder than my glass of iced tea. I'm Benjamin Coleman, 70 years old. I've been a retired architect for 5 years, and for the last 6 months, I've been a widower. The house felt wrong. It was a huge 2 million modern house in the hills outside Austin, Texas. All glass and steel, a place with no warmth, no memories. My son Leo and his wife Maya sat across from me. They were looking at me, but not with love. It was the look of people studying a property line they wanted to move. I was trying to enjoy the roast chicken, but I wasn't hungry anymore. Maya, who is 38 and wears her ambition like expensive perfume, put her fork down with a soft click. "Ben," she started. She never calls me Dad, only Ben. "Leo and I have been talking, and we think it's time we optimize the space in this house." Optimize. That's a word architects use when they're about to knock down a wall you love. In families, it means someone is about to lose something. My chest felt tight. I remembered the conversation from 6 months ago, just weeks after my wife Isabella passed away. The loneliness in our 5-bedroom Tarrytown house, the house we built, the one with the oak tree Isabella loved, was choking me. Leo and Maya had come over, their faces showing perfect sympathy. "Dad, this place is too big for you," Leo had said, his hand on my shoulder. "It's full of ghosts. You're lonely. We're worried about you." Maya had added, "We have an idea, a wonderful idea. Sell this old place. Use the money. We'll combine our money and buy a beautiful new home in Westlake. A fresh start for all of us. You'll have your own ground floor master bedroom with a garden view. We'll take care of you. You'll never be lonely again." They sounded so convincing. A family, a fresh start, an end to the silence. So I did it. I sold my house. I sold the house Isabella and I had poured our lives into for 40 years. I sold the oak tree. I took the 1.5 million from the sale, every last cent of my retirement, and handed it to them. They used it as the down payment on this 2 million house. They borrowed the remaining 500,000. I kept my end of the deal. I paid for their dream life, moved into the ground floor suite, and tried to pretend this cold glass box felt like home. Now, sitting at that dinner table, I realized their promise was about to break. "Optimize?" I asked, my voice quieter than I wanted. Maya gave Leo a small, impatient look. Leo, my 40-year-old son, the man I taught to ride a bike, the boy who cried on my shoulder when his high school girlfriend broke up with him, moved in his seat. He wouldn't look at me. "What she means, Dad, is, well, Maya needs your room." There it was, the first cut. "She needs my room." I tried to keep my voice steady. "What for? This house has 4 other bedrooms." "For the baby," Maya said, placing a perfectly done hand on her flat stomach. I froze. "A baby? You're pregnant, Maya? That's wonderful. Why didn't you say anything?" "Well, I'm not yet," she said, waving her hand. "But we're trying, and the stress of not having the nursery ready is affecting my fertility." My doctor said I need a calm environment. I need to prepare. I looked at her, then at Leo. But the 2 rooms upstairs are empty. They're perfect for a nursery. No, Maya snapped, the sweet act cracking. I can't be climbing stairs all day when I'm pregnant or with a newborn. It's not practical. I need a room on the main floor near the kitchen. Your room is the only one that works. I looked at my son, asking with my eyes, Leo, you agreed to this. The ground floor suite was the arrangement. Leo just stared at his plate. The silence stretched. Maya sighed, a dramatic, long sound, as if I were the one being difficult. I finally asked the question that was hanging in the air, heavy and damp. So where exactly did you plan on putting me? Leo cleared his throat. We already cleared out the storage room in the basement. It's actually pretty comfortable. We can put a big TV down there for you. It'll be your own private space. The basement. I had been down there once to check the water heater. It was a concrete box with no windows. It smelled of dampness and mold. The only light came from a single bare bulb hanging from a wire. They weren't optimizing space. They were burying me. No, I said. The word was quiet, but it landed like a brick. I'm not moving to the basement. The agreement was the master suite. Maya's eyes flashed with anger. She turned that look on Leo. It was a clear command. Handle him. Leo looked at her, then at me. I saw the weakness I had mistaken for kindness all his life. He took a deep breath, puffed up his chest, and slammed his fist on the dining room table. The silverware jumped. My water glass spilled. Dad! He shouted, his voice cracking with anger I had never heard from him. Maya needs that room. We're trying to start a family. Either you give my wife your room or you get out of here right now. Get out. Get out of the house I paid for. I stared at my son. The room was silent except for his heavy breathing. The $1.5 million I gave them felt like ash in my mouth. I had thought I was buying a family. I realized in that horrible, clear moment that I had only been paying rent for their hate. I placed my napkin slowly on the table. All right, I said, my voice calm. Maya looked confused by my lack of protest. Leo just looked angry. If that's how you feel, I continued, I guess I'll get my things. The shock of Leo's words hung in the air, taking all the oxygen out of the room. He stood there breathing hard, his face still red, looking like a child who had just thrown his worst tantrum and was scared of what would happen next. Maya, on the other hand, was a master of control. The moment the echo of "Get Out" faded, her whole act shifted. The winning smirk vanished, replaced by a mask of horrified concern. She jumped up from her chair, rushing to my side. "Oh, Ben! Oh my goodness!" she said sweetly, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. She placed her hand on my arm. Her touch felt cold, even through my shirt. "Leo, my God, what is wrong with you? Look, you've spilled water everywhere. You scared him." She turned to me, her eyes wide and begging. "Ben, please. He didn't mean that. He truly didn't. He's just under so much pressure at work. They're talking about layoffs and he's been working 60-hour weeks. And on top of that, all this baby stress is making him crazy. He would never speak to you like that normally. You know that." She shot a look at Leo, a look as sharp and deadly as ice. "It wasn't a request. It was an order. Tell him you're sorry, honey, right now. Apologize to your father." Leo looked like he had been slapped. He flinched, his eyes moving from her to me and back again. He picked up a napkin and started dabbing at the spilled water on the table, still refusing to look at me. "Dad, I'm sorry," he mumbled into his chest. "I didn't mean get out. I just meant, we all just need to be a little flexible here for the baby." Flexible. That's what he called it. Throwing the man who paid for his house into a windowless basement. Flexible. I just sat there, my hands folded in my lap. I was so tired. The fight had gone out of me the day I buried Isabella. These last 6 months had been a long gray fog of sadness. And this house was supposed to be my safe place. It was supposed to be the place I wouldn't be alone. The thought of fighting them, of turning my life into a war, was exhausting. I didn't want a war. I just wanted peace. I wanted a family. And a small, desperate part of me, a part one was ashamed of, wanted to believe them. It wanted to believe this was all just a misunderstanding, that Leo was just stressed, that Maya was just a worried mother-to-be, that they really did care about me and this was just a short-term problem. It was easier to believe that lie than to face the scary truth that I was 70 years old, alone, and had just been betrayed by my only son. Maya saw the hesitation in my eyes. She saw my tiredness, and she moved in for the final soothing lie. "He's right, Ben," she said softly, her voice now a gentle purr. She crouched down slightly beside my chair, forcing me to look at her. "It's just temporary. That's all we're asking. Just for a few months, a year at the most. Just until the baby is sleeping through the night and I'm not running up and down the stairs. That's all. Then you can have your beautiful room back, just the way it was. We promise. Don't we, Leo?" Leo nodded quickly, still not looking at me. "Yeah, Dad. Temporary. Just for a little while. A few months, a year." It sounded like forever to be locked in a basement. But it also sounded like it would end. It sounded like a compromise that would avoid a war. It sounded like the easy path. I looked at Maya's carefully made face, all concern and honesty. I looked at my son, who was now just a shell, a puppet for his wife. I was an architect. I had built bridges. I knew how to compromise. "All right," I said, the word barely heard. "Temporary." Maya's face lit up with a blinding, winning smile. "Oh, thank you, Ben. Thank you. You won't regret this. You're the best. We'll make the basement so comfortable you won't even want to leave." She threw her arms around me in a hug that felt like a spider's web. I didn't hug her back. I just sat there, cold and still, listening to the sound of my own surrender. And as she held me, I knew with the certainty of a building flaw about to bring down a structure. I knew I had just made a terrible, terrible mistake. Leo's relief was immediate. He saw my silence as hesitation, not the deep shame it was, and he jumped in to sell the idea. His voice suddenly filled with fake excitement. "It'll be great, Dad. Seriously great," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We'll install the 70-inch flat screen down there. You know, the big one from the family room. It'll be your ultimate man cave." He managed a short laugh. "Total privacy. No one will bother you at all. You can watch your history shows as loud as you want. We'll even get you a mini fridge for your beers. It'll be fantastic. A man cave. Total privacy. The privacy of forgotten luggage." I thought about the reality of that space. I had only been down there once when we first moved in to check the circuit breaker. It wasn't a room. It was a concrete tomb. I thought of the single bare bulb hanging from a ceiling beam, casting harsh, ugly shadows. I thought of the floor, cold, hard concrete that would pull the chill right into my bones every morning. I thought about the fresh air. There was none. Just that one tiny cobwebbed window set high up in the wall. A window that didn't even open, offering only a sliver of gray light from the bottom of a window well filled with dead leaves. That first night was a new kind of terrible. The concrete floor took every bit of warmth from the air. I lay under 3 blankets, still wearing my sweater, and shivered. Sleep was impossible. Every 15 minutes, the water heater started with a scary whoosh that sounded like a jet engine, followed by a low, gurgling rumble that shook right through the thin mattress and into my bones. The furnace clicked and hissed, a restless metallic breathing. But the worst sound came from directly above my head. Laughter. I could hear them, muffled but clear. They were in my room. My room. I could hear the faint bass of their television. I heard Maya's high-pitched, winning laugh again. I heard the low murmur of their voices, happy and relaxed, settling into the space I had paid for. I lay there in the cold, noisy darkness, staring at the exposed pipes on the ceiling. I finally understood. I hadn't made a mistake. I had handed them the shovel and willingly let them bury me alive. When the first sliver of gray watery light finally came through the high, dirty basement window, I felt like I had aged 10 years in one night. My bones ached. I pulled myself stiffly from the cot. I needed coffee. Real coffee from the real kitchen, not the instant powder I kept down here next to the dehumidifier. I needed a single simple moment of human dignity. I put on my robe and my slippers. The concrete floor was ice cold against the thin soles. I climbed the stairs, my hand gripping the railing, feeling every one of my 70 years. The house upstairs was silent. Leo, I guessed, had already left for work. Maya, the new queen of the house, was probably still asleep in my bed. I walked down the hall toward the kitchen, my mind focused only on the coffee pot. But I stopped. The door to my old room, the ground floor master suite, was open. I heard voices, men's voices, and the soft sound of a radio playing a pop station. Paint fumes, sharp and chemical, drifted into the hallway. I paused, my hand on the door frame, and looked inside. My mind was ready for pale yellow paint, a border of cartoon animals, maybe the small pale pieces of a half-put-together crib in the middle of the floor. I was expecting to see the beginnings of the nursery, the reason for my sacrifice. What I saw instead was a construction zone. 2 men in white paint-covered overalls were inside. One was on a ladder carefully taping the high ceiling. The other was rolling thick dark paint onto the main wall. It wasn't a soft, welcoming yellow. It wasn't a gentle baby blue. It was a deep, strong charcoal gray. It was the color of a boardroom, not a nursery. And on the far wall, the wall where Isabella's armchair and reading lamp used to sit, huge panels of floor-to-ceiling mirrors were leaning, waiting to be put up. I just stood there, completely confused. My architect's brain was trying to process the design choice. It made no sense. This wasn't a baby's room. This looked like a fancy gym. Maya, I called out. My voice was shaky. She came out from the master bathroom, not in a bathrobe, but in a sleek black head-to-toe Lululemon outfit. It was the kind of expensive athletic wear that was clearly designed for looks, not for exercise. Her hair was pulled back in a tight, perfect ponytail. She was holding a rolled-up yoga mat. She jumped when she saw me, her hand flying to her chest in that dramatic way she had. "Ben! Goodness, you scared me half to death. I thought you'd be sleeping in, getting used to your new space." My new space, the cellar. I just pointed, dumbfounded, at the wall of mirrors, at the dark gray paint. "I don't understand," I said. "I thought this was for the baby." Maya let out a high, airy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who has been caught but feels absolutely no shame. "Oh, it is. It absolutely is," she said brightly, walking to the center of the room and unrolling her yoga mat with a snap. "But you have to prepare the space first, Ben. You have to clear out all the old stagnant energy." She gestured vaguely around the room as if my presence, my life, my memories were a stain that needed to be painted over. "This," she continued, striking a pose, her arms stretching toward the ceiling, "is all part of the process. I need a calm, quiet, zen space to get my mind right for the baby." She smiled at me as if sharing a deep secret. "Yoga. Yoga is amazing for conception. My doctor said so." She turned and looked at her own reflection in the half-installed mirror. "Ist er daher?" The lie was so lazy, so obviously false. She didn't even care if I believed it. She was telling me, a retired architect who had designed dozens of homes, that this yoga studio was a nursery. The insult was worse than the scream from the night before. The scream was hot anger. This was cold, calculated hate. She didn't just want my room. She wanted me to feel stupid. She wanted me to know I was powerless. I didn't say another word. I just turned around and walked away, her bright fake voice following me down the hall. "I'll be done in an hour, Ben. Then the kitchen is all yours." I didn't stop. I walked right past the kitchen. I didn't want coffee anymore. I walked down the stairs to the basement, to my cold concrete box, and I sat on the edge of my cot. She thought I was an idiot. She thought I was a foolish old man who would believe anything. And she wasn't even bothering to put any effort into her lies anymore. Sleep didn't come. The second night was even worse than the first. My body had noticed the cold, and the dampness felt like it was getting into my joints, a deep, constant ache. I was lying on the cot, fully dressed under the blankets, listening to the symphony of the house's mechanics. The furnace clicked. The water heater rumbled. The pipes ticked and groaned. But then, at 2 o'clock in the morning, a new sound started. A rhythmic, violent thump, thump, thump. It was the washing machine starting its spin cycle, shaking the very concrete floor beneath my cot. My eyes snapped open in the pitch black. Who does laundry at 2 o'clock in the morning? The noise was jarring, rattling my teeth. Felt mean. It felt like they were doing it on purpose. A reminder that I was in the utility space, that I wasn't even worthy of a quiet night's sleep. My throat was dry, a combination of the dusty air and pure frustration. I was thirsty. I wasn't going to lie here cold, tired, and thirsty while they lived in luxury above my head. I got up off the cot, my slippers landing on the icy floor. I needed a glass of water from the kitchen, the real kitchen. I moved quietly, going through the maze of Isabella's boxed-up life. I opened the basement door, wincing at the small creak of its hinges, and started up the carpeted stairs. The house was dark, but as I reached the main floor, I saw a faint blue-white light flickering from the living room. It was the glow of a cell phone. I froze. My first thought was that Leo was up, unable to sleep, maybe feeling guilty. But the house was silent except for the distant muffled thump of the washing machine below. I took a step into the hallway, keeping to the shadows. And then I heard her voice. It was Maya. She was in the living room, her back to me, curled up on the expensive sofa that I had paid for. She was whispering, but the whisper was sharp, annoyed. "I told you it would work," she hissed into the phone. "Just give me some credit." No, of course he bought it. He bought the whole "it's temporary" thing. Hook, line, and sinker. I stopped breathing. My heart felt like it had been dunked in ice water. She paused, listening to the person on the other end. Then she laughed, a low, cold sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Pregnant? Are you crazy? Of course I'm not pregnant. Do you have any idea what that would do to my body right now?" "No." I leaned against the wall, the blood draining from my face. My knees felt weak. "Not pregnant. I just needed the room," she continued, her voice filled with hate. I couldn't stand having him on the same floor anymore, shuffling around, looking sad. It was depressing. The poor old man is down in the basement, right where he belongs. Out of sight, out of mind. Now I finally have my studio. She listened again, then sighed impatiently. "No, he won't find out. He's a 70-year-old man who just lost his wife. He's practically senile. He'll believe anything I tell him." My fists clenched. Senile. Poor old man. "Don't worry about Leo," she whispered, her voice dropping, becoming almost intimate. "Trust me, I can handle Leo. He's so blindly in love with me. so desperate to keep me happy. He'd throw his own father into a volcano if I asked him to. He's weak. He always has been. She was silent for a long time, listening. I could hear the faint, tiny sound of a man's voice on the other end of the line, but I couldn't make out the words. "Okay," she finally said. "Just make sure the funds are ready. I'm handling my end. I'll see you next week. Kisses." She hung up. I stood there, frozen in the dark hallway, my heart pounding against my ribs. I backed away slowly, carefully, one step at a time, not making a sound. I didn't get the glass of water. I just went back down the stairs, back into my concrete cell, and quietly shut the door. I sat on the edge of the cot in the dark, the roar of the washing machine filling the silence. It was all a lie. The baby, the nursery, the doctor's advice, the yoga for conception. All of it. A cold, calculated, cruel performance. She had played me. She had played her own husband. She had used my grief for Isabella, my desire for a grandchild, as a weapon against me, all to get a room, a yoga studio. But it was more than that. Who was she talking to? It wasn't a girlfriend. The tone was different. Make sure the funds are ready. She wasn't just redecorating. She was planning something that involved money. And I, the foolish old man, was sitting right in the middle of it. That night, the washing machine finally stopped its noise around 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't sleep at all. I just lay there in the cold, replaying her words over and over. Not pregnant. Out of sight, out of mind. Make sure the funds are ready. He's weak. When I heard Leo's car start in the driveway around 7 o'clock, I knew my day was beginning. I was no longer just a sad father. I was an architect looking at a blueprint full of lies. And I needed to find the structural flaw. I started to watch, really watch. From my basement window, that tiny slit of glass, I had a perfect low-angle view of the front porch. It was just enough to see the deliveries. And there were so many deliveries. Every day, the FedEx truck or the UPS driver would pull up with big glossy boxes. Sometimes a sleek black box with Net-a-Porter on the side. Other times a bright orange one. I'm a 70-year-old man. I don't know fashion, but even I recognized the name on that orange box. Hermes. I saw Maya come out, dressed in her yoga clothes, to get them. She'd sign for them with a flourish, like a queen accepting gifts. I saw new shoe boxes from Louis Vuitton, packages from Saks. This wasn't just a shopping habit. This was bleeding money. Maya didn't have a job. Her entire day was yoga, taking her Tesla to lunch with friends and shopping online. Leo was a mid-level manager at a software company. He made good money, sure, but not this kind of money, not multiple $1,000 handbag money, not new luxury car every 2 years money. I knew his salary. I had helped him with his taxes last year. They were living far, far beyond their means. That phone call. Make sure the funds are ready. It wasn't just about a yoga studio. They were desperate for cash. I changed my routine. I started waking up before them, or at least before Maya got out of bed. I creep up the stairs from my cellar and wait by the front door. I started getting the mail before she could. For a week, it was just the usual junk mail. Catalogs for expensive furniture I knew I wasn't buying, bills addressed to them, which I left on the hall table. Nothing. I was starting to think I was going crazy, that I was just a paranoid old man in a basement, seeing shadows where there were none. Then, on a Tuesday, it came. It was a standard white business envelope with a window. The return address was just a P.O. box, but the logo in the corner was clear. Bank of America. It was addressed to Leo and Maya Coleman. My hands felt sweaty. I knew their regular mortgage statement didn't come at this time of month. I held the letter, feeling its weight. It was thin, too thin to be a statement. My heart was pounding. I knew I shouldn't. This was their mail. But this was my house, my money, my life. I went back down to the basement to my cold room and I sat on the cot. I turned on my one reading lamp. With a slightly shaking finger, I tore open the envelope. It wasn't a statement. It wasn't an advertisement. It was a letter, a single cold formal page. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Coleman," it began, "we regret to inform you that your recent application for a home equity line of credit, also known as a second mortgage, in the amount of $200,000 has been denied." I had to read the sentence 3 times. 200,000. They weren't just overspending on handbags. They were in a 200,000 hole. They were so desperate for money that they were trying to borrow against the house. My house. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying, sickening snap. The phone call. "Make sure the funds are ready." This must have been the funds. And they had been denied. This explained Maya's anger, her worry. This explained their sudden desperate need to get me out of the way. But as I stared at the rejection letter, the fog of my confusion and sadness finally cleared, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. They were desperate, and in their desperation they had gotten sloppy. They had forgotten who they were dealing with. They had forgotten that I wasn't just a foolish old man. I was an architect. I was a man who read every single line of a contract. I thought back to that day in my lawyer's office 6 months ago. Patrick Croft, my attorney, had been sliding the papers across the desk. "Ben," he'd said, "this is a huge gift. Are you sure you're protected?" And I had smiled. "Add the standard land lease clause, Patrick. Just in case." They were trying to take out a second mortgage, a new financial burden on a property where they didn't even own the land. They just made a fatal mistake. My hand was shaking, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was from energy. It was the cold, sharp clarity of an architect who has just found the critical flaw in a blueprint. This letter, this rejection letter, was the flaw. They were sloppy. They were desperate. And in their greed, they had just handed me the very weapon I needed to tear the whole rotten structure down. I didn't hesitate. I fumbled for my cell phone, the cheap prepaid one I'd been using. My fingers scrolled past Leo's name, past the notifications from my rideshare app. I found the contact I needed, the one I had saved under PC. I stepped away from the rumbling water heater, pressing myself into the dark corner by Isabella's boxes, hoping the signal would hold in this concrete tomb. The phone rang twice. Patrick Croft's office. "Patrick," I said, my voice low and steady. "It's Ben."
"Ben Coleman."
"Are you free to talk? It's urgent and it's private." I heard the familiar sound of his office chair creaking, then the muffled click of his door closing. "Ben, of course. I'm closing the door right now. What's going on? You sound awful. Is everything okay with Leo and Maya?" "It is," I said. "And it isn't. Patrick, I need you to pull a file. The big one. The Coleman Family Trust. Specifically, I need you to look at the Westlake property agreement. The 99-year land lease I set up for them." There was a pause. Patrick was more than my lawyer. He was an old golf buddy. He knew my family. "The land lease?" he asked, his voice suddenly careful. "That thing was ironclad. Ben, what's happened?" I took a deep breath, the musty damp air of the basement filling my lungs. And I told him everything. I started with the Sunday dinner, the demand for my room, the ridiculous see-through lie about a nursery. I told him about the ultimatum. He said that. Patrick's voice was tight with disbelief. "He put his 70-year-old father in a basement? That's where I'm calling you from right now, Patrick," I said. "I'm sitting on a cot next to my wife's stored belongings." I heard him let out a sharp, angry sound. "Ben, that's not just ungrateful. That's borderline elder abuse. We can fight this on those grounds alone." "Wait," I interrupted. "It gets worse. That's why I'm calling. The nursery, Patrick. It was all a lie. I told him about the 2 o'clock in the morning conversation I overheard. Maya's cold voice. Not pregnant. Foolish old man. Out of sight, out of mind. I told him about the yoga studio she was building in my old room. I told him about the endless fancy deliveries, the Hermes boxes, the shoes, the lifestyle that Leo's salary could never support. She's playing him, Ben, and she's playing you, Patrick said, his voice hard as granite. I know, I said, but this morning they made a mistake, a fatal mistake. I told him about the mail. I told him about the white envelope from Bank of America. I read the words to him slowly, letting each one land. We regret to inform you your application for a home equity line of credit in the amount of $200,000 has been denied. The other end of the line went completely, utterly silent. I just waited. I heard nothing but the faint rhythmic click, click, click of his computer keyboard. 1 second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Patrick, are you still there? I heard a low chuckle. It started deep in his chest and grew into a full, appreciative laugh. It was not a laugh of humor. It was the laugh of a lawyer who has just found the smoking gun. Ben Coleman, he finally said. His voice filled with a kind of awe I had not heard in years. You sly, magnificent old fox. I completely forgot you made me add that section. I thought you were just being a paranoid architect. You found it then? I asked. A cold, powerful sense of calm was settling over me. The shaking in my hands had stopped. I'm reading it right now, Patrick said. His voice was all business now, sharp and focused. The man I had trusted with my life's work for 3 decades. Here it is. Clause 4B, restrictions on encumbrance. It states, and I am quoting, the lessees, Leo and Maya Coleman, shall not under any circumstances create, incur, or permit any mortgage, deed of trust, lien, or other financial encumbrance upon the leased land or the property thereon, other than the initial $500,000 mortgage, without the express prior written consent of the lessor, the Coleman Family Trust. An application for a second mortgage, I stated, counts as an attempt to create an encumbrance. It's a clear and undeniable violation of the lease terms. Ben, Patrick confirmed, his voice precise. They didn't just bend the rules. They took a sledgehammer to the entire contract. I looked around the damp, gray walls of my prison. I looked at the boxes holding my wife's memories. A slow, righteous anger, purer and colder than any I had felt before, began to rise. They hadn't just insulted me. They hadn't just lied to me. They had broken the one binding legal document that protected my $1.5 million investment. They had broken my trust. And now they had broken the contract. Ben, Patrick said, his voice quiet, understanding the nuclear gravity of what he was about to say. Ben, do you understand what this means? I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. The damp, cold air of the basement suddenly felt electric, charged. Patrick, I said, my voice low, barely above a whisper. Tell me exactly what that means in plain English. I heard Patrick take a deep breath on the other end of the line. He was no longer the laughing golf buddy. His voice was the one he used in court. Cold, precise, and absolutely final. Ben, it means exactly what it sounds like. They violated the core terms of the land lease agreement. They attempted to place a new financial burden on the property, an action that is explicitly forbidden. It means you, or rather the Coleman Family Trust, have the complete and one-sided right to declare the lease null and void. You can end the 99-year agreement immediately. I stared at the concrete wall in front of me, at a spiderweb I hadn't noticed before. End the lease. The words echoed in the small, musty space. This wasn't a family argument about a bedroom anymore. This was the nuclear option. This was the end. My throat was dry. And if I end the lease, Patrick, what happens then? What happens to the house? This was it. The moment, Patrick said, and his voice was very, very quiet. This is the genius of the clause you had me write. They don't own the land, Ben. They only own the structure sitting on it. If the land lease is ended, they are, in the eyes of the law, trespassing on your property. So I just tell them to leave? Oh, it's better than that, he said. According to Section 4C, remedies for default, they have 30 days. 30 calendar days from the moment they are served the notice. I held my breath. 30 days to do what? To move their property off your land. I was confused. Move their property? You mean their furniture, their clothes, the Tesla? No, Ben, Patrick said, and I could hear the grim satisfaction in his voice. I mean the house. They have 30 calendar days to physically lift that entire 2 million structure off its foundation and move it off your land. If they fail to do so, if by 5 p.m. on the 30th day that house is still sitting on your property, the house itself, the entire structure, defaults to the landowner. It becomes the sole unencumbered property of the Coleman Family Trust. Free and clear. I had to sit down. I sank onto the edge of the cot, the cheap springs groaning in protest. The phone felt impossibly heavy in my hand. My God, I remembered it now. I remembered sitting in Patrick's plush office, the smell of leather and old books. He had been reviewing the trust documents. Ben, he'd said, looking at me over his glasses. A 30-day removal clause for your son? Isn't that a bit harsh? It's standard for a skyscraper in downtown Dallas, not a family arrangement. And I remember what I told him. Contracts keep families honest, Patrick. Just put it in. It's a formality. It will never be used. A formality. I never, not in a million years, thought I would be the one to use it. I never imagined my son, my Leo, and his wife would be the ones acting dishonestly. I thought it was just a piece of paper, a safety net buried in legal language. Now I realized it wasn't a safety net. It was a guillotine, and they had just willingly placed their necks on the block. Ben, are you still there? Patrick's voice brought me back. Ben, this is it. This is the solution. This is how you get them out. This is how you take back control. I can have the default notice drafted and sent by a process server this afternoon. They'll have it by dinner. I looked around the miserable basement. I looked at the boxes of Isabella's life piled up in the corner like garbage. I heard Maya's cold, mocking laugh in my head. Foolish old man. Out of sight, out of mind. He'll believe anything. They thought I was powerless. They thought they had won. They thought I was just a sad, senile old man they could lock in a cellar. But something was still missing. That rejection letter was the what. Maya's secret phone call was the who. But I still didn't have the why. Why were they so desperate for $200,000? A yoga studio doesn't cost that much. Even a closet full of Hermes bags doesn't explain trying to illegally mortgage a $2 million house. That kind of desperation comes from something else. Debt, gambling, blackmail. Maya's words, make sure the funds are ready. It was tied to something bigger. If I pulled the trigger now, I would get the house, yes. But I would never know the full story. I would never understand how my son got tangled in this. I would never know who that man on the phone was. Patrick, I said, and my voice was firm now. The fog of shock was clearing, replaced by that cold architectural precision I had lived by for 40 years. I need you to do exactly as I say. Draft the termination papers. Prepare the notice of default. Get everything ready to be filed at a moment's notice. I want it ready to launch. I'll have it on my desk in an hour, he said, sensing the change in my tone. I'll wait for your signal. Good, I said, but do not send it. Do not file anything. Not yet. Ben, why wait? They violated the contract. It's over. Let's end this. Because it's not over, I said, staring at the dusty cobwebbed window. They're arrogant, but they're not stupid. They're desperate. And I want to know why. There's something else going on in my house, Patrick. Something bigger than handbags and yoga mats. I need one last piece of evidence. I need to know just how deep this rot actually goes. And how are you going to do that while you're trapped in a basement? A small, cold smile touched my lips. I'm not trapped. They think I'm a foolish old man who is just going to accept his fate. They think I'm weak, defeated. It's time I use that to my advantage. I'm going to give them exactly what they think they want. I'm going to disappear. I needed them to be comfortable. I needed them to believe I was truly gone, defeated. If I was going to catch them, they needed to drop their guard completely. And for that to happen, the foolish old man had to perform his final act. I waited until the next morning, just after Leo had left for work. I went up the stairs from the basement, my steps heavy and slow, just like I knew Maya thought they should be. I found her in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, drinking a green smoothie. I had packed a single small suitcase. It was one of Isabella's old ones from the basement, soft-sided and worn out. I had filled it with a few old sweaters, 2 pairs of pants, and my shaving kit, just enough to look convincing. I set it down in the hallway, making just enough noise for her to look up. She saw the suitcase, and her eyes, just for a fraction of a second, lit up. It was a flash of pure, total triumph. She quickly masked it with a look of concern. "Ben," she asked, her voice soft. "What's that?" I shuffled my feet. I looked at the floor. I let my shoulders slump. I channeled every bit of the grief and tiredness I truly felt, but I directed it at myself, not at her. "I've been thinking," I said, my voice thick and low. "I think you're right, Maya." And Leo was right. I'm just in the way here. I looked up at her, trying to look as pathetic and beaten as she believed me to be. "I'm just an old man in a new house. I don't fit. I'm just a burden to you too, especially now with the baby coming." Maya put her phone down. She was trying to hide her smile. I could see the corners of her mouth twitching. She composed her face into a mask of deep, unconvincing sympathy. "Oh, Ben," she said, walking over. She didn't touch me this time. "We don't think you're a burden. We just knew you weren't happy." "I'm not," I agreed, letting the lie hang in the air. "I'm not happy, and I'm making you unhappy. So I'm going to go." This time she couldn't hide her surprise. "Go? Go where?" "I was thinking Florida," I said, the lie coming easily. "I have an old friend. Well, a cousin of Isabella's, Clara, down in Sarasota. She's a widow too. I think I'll go visit her for a while. A few weeks, maybe a month. Get some sea air. Get out of your hair." Aunt Clara didn't exist. I had no friends in Sarasota, but Maya didn't know that. Her face broke into a radiant, genuine smile, which she quickly tried to cover, turning it into a look of thoughtful understanding. "Ben, that is a wonderful idea," she said to the empty room as if Leo were there. "A vacation. Oh, you deserve it more than anyone. All this stress. You need to rest. You need to heal." She was practically shaking with excitement. "Yes," I said. "Rest. That's it." "When were you thinking?" she asked, her voice casual, but her eyes sharp. "Now," I said. "I've already packed. I'll just drive to the airport." "Oh, so soon? Well, if you're sure." She practically bounced on her feet. "Do you need a ride?" "Oh no, you have your car, of course." "Well, this is just the best thing for you. I'm so happy you're taking care of yourself." She walked me to the front door, her arm linked through mine as if we were the dearest of friends. She was guiding me out, pushing me, herding me toward the exit. "You have a wonderful time, Ben. You hear? Have a fantastic trip." And please, she added, her eyes shining with false honesty, don't you worry about a single thing here. We will be perfectly fine. Just focus on yourself. I looked at her one last time. Thank you, Maya, for everything. She smiled, the picture of a loving, beautiful daughter-in-law. Of course, we're family. I got into my old sedan. I put the suitcase in the passenger seat. I looked back at the 2 million house. Maya was standing in the doorway, waving. It was a bright, cheerful, energetic wave. A good riddance wave. I pulled out of the driveway. I turned right, heading toward the highway, the direction of the Austin Bergstrom International Airport. I drove for half a mile until I was sure I was out of sight. Then I took the next exit. I circled back around. I did not go to the airport. I drove straight downtown to the glittering 30-story tower of glass that was the Four Seasons. I pulled my 10-year-old sedan up to the valet, right behind a brand new black Porsche. The valet looked at me, then at my dusty car, then at my sad, worn-out suitcase, with just a hint of confusion. I didn't care. I walked into the massive marble lobby, the air smelling faintly of white tea and money. Checking in, sir? The woman at the desk asked, her smile polite but practiced. Yes, I said. I need a suite, a quiet one with a good view of the city, for an indefinite period. 20 minutes later, I was standing in a 1000A night corner suite on the 22nd floor. The room was twice the size of my basement cell, with a king-sized bed, a marble bathroom, and a floor-to-ceiling window that looked out over the entire Austin skyline. The irony was so thick I could taste it. They thought I was on a sad trip to Florida, probably staying in some cheap motel. They thought I was defeated, gone, irrelevant. I sat on the plush velvet sofa. I took out my cell phone. I didn't call Patrick. Not yet. I had one more piece to put in place. I was building my fortress. I dialed a number I had found online that morning. Hello? Sand and Sea Properties. This is Brenda speaking. Hello, Brenda, I said, my voice perfectly calm. My name is Benjamin Coleman. I'm calling about a property you have listed in Galveston. The one on Beach Drive, the modern glass house. Oh yes, the Heron's Watch. A beautiful home, sir. I'm sure it is, I said, looking out at the city below. I'd like to schedule a viewing for tomorrow morning. Wonderful. Are you pre-approved for financing? I smiled. That won't be necessary. This will be a cash purchase. Couldn't just leave. I couldn't just walk away and let them think they had one. Patrick's words confirmed my power, but Maya's 2 o'clock in the morning phone call confirmed my suspicion. They were desperate for money, and they were lying to everyone, including each other. I needed to know what would happen when the foolish old man was no longer there to be an obstacle. The plan formed in my mind the day before I left. Maya had announced she was going to a very important all-day spa retreat with her friends. I just need to de-stress, Ben, she'd said. For the baby, you know. It was the perfect window of opportunity. Leo was at work. She was gone. I had the entire 2 million house to myself. I am an architect. For 40 years, my job was to build beautiful things, and more importantly, to understand how they are put together. I specialized in hiding structural supports in plain sight, making the functional invisible. Hiding a tiny 2-inch camera would be child's play. I went to the living room, to the massive custom-built oak bookshelf that lined the main wall. I scanned the shelves. I needed the perfect spot. Not too low, not too high. Something that would never be moved. My eyes landed on it. A thick leather-bound copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. It had been Isabella's. It hadn't been touched in over 2 years. No one would ever dream of reading it. I took the book down to my workshop, my cell, the basement. I sat on my cot, and with the precision of a surgeon, I took my old X-Acto knife from my drafting kit. I opened the book. I carefully cut a neat rectangular hole into the pages, leaving a solid border all around. I worked for an hour, slicing through hundreds of pages of poetry, hollowing out a perfect camera-shaped tomb. The camera itself was a simple 30-wise cam I had bought at Best Buy weeks ago, telling Leo it was to watch the garden. It was a tiny black cube. It was Wi-Fi enabled and powered by a simple USB cable. I placed the camera inside the book. I used a small drill bit, one I used for model making, and drilled a single tiny, perfectly clean hole through the dark green leather spine. A new, unblinking eye. I went back upstairs. I threaded the thin power cable through the back of the bookshelf down to an outlet that was completely hidden. I plugged it in. I placed the book back on the shelf, right between a copy of Moby Dick and an old family photo album. I adjusted the angle. It was perfect. From that spot, the camera's wide-angle lens captured the entire living room, the dining table, and the main entryway. I synced it to the app on my phone. The image flickered, then focused crystal clear. I could see the sofa. I could see the kitchen entrance. I had my eye. Now, sitting in my 1000A night suite at the Four Seasons, I finished my call with the Galveston realtor. I set the phone down. I picked up my laptop. I opened the Wise app. The screen was black for a second. Then the live feed flickered to life. There it was, my living room. Their living room. I could see the expensive sofa. I could see the kitchen counter where I had been humiliated. The house was empty. Maya was probably still out celebrating my departure. The trap was set. I poured myself a glass of Macallan 18 from the minibar. I swirled the amber liquid, the city lights of Austin twinkling below me like a million diamonds. I sat back in the plush velvet armchair. I took a slow sip. The whiskey burned, a warm, welcome sensation. I looked at the live feed on my laptop, an empty stage waiting for the actors to appear. "All right, Maya," I whispered to the empty hotel room. "The foolish old man is in Florida. The house is all yours." I took another sip. Show me what you and my son do when you think no one is watching." I sat there in the silence of my luxury suite, the $1,000 a night air perfectly climate-controlled. I looked at the laptop screen, an open portal into the 2 million house I had bought. For the first few hours, nothing. The house was empty. I watched dust particles dance in the afternoon sun hitting the living room floor. I ordered room service, a steak. It was perfect. I ate it alone, watching my empty living room. Around 7 p.m., the front door opened on the camera feed. Leo and Maya came in. They didn't look sad. They didn't look conflicted. They looked light. They were carrying bags of expensive-looking takeout. They didn't even bother to sit at the dining table. They flopped onto the sofa I had paid for, and started unpacking boxes of sushi onto the coffee table. I watched them eat. I watched them laugh. There was no sign of grief for the father who had just left. There was no discussion of my trip. They just ate. And for a while I thought perhaps that was it. Perhaps the cruelty was just in the indifference. But then, around 8:30, Leo got up. He went to the kitchen and came back holding a bottle. It wasn't just any bottle. It was a bottle of Veuve Clicquot champagne. I recognized the yellow label. I had bought that bottle. I had been saving it. I had planned to open it when they announced Maya was pregnant. My stomach turned. Maya clapped her hands, a giddy, childish gesture. "Ooh, yes. Finally." Leo fumbled with the cork. He was never good at it. It finally popped with a loud, festive thwack that I heard clearly through the laptop speakers. He poured 2 flutes. Maya took hers, her eyes glittering. She raised her glass high. "To us," she said, her voice bright and clear, "and to Florida. May he enjoy the sunshine and stay there indefinitely." She let out that high, tinkling laugh, the one I used to think was so charming. It now sounded like breaking glass. Leo looked around nervously, even though the house was empty. Maya, shoo, keep your voice down. What if he calls? What? She scoffed, taking a long sip. He's gone, Leo. Finally. The foolish old man is finally gone. He's probably halfway to Sarasota by now, checking into some sad beige retirement motel, feeling sorry for himself. Now, she said, settling back into the cushions. We can finally start the real plan. Leo didn't drink. He set his flute down on the coffee table. He was wringing his hands. Maya, I'm still not sure about this. It's too risky. We're talking about selling the house. What if he finds out? It's Dad's house. He paid for almost all of it. I leaned forward in my hotel chair. Selling the house. I watched Maya's face transform on the screen. The joy vanished, replaced by that cold, hard impatience I had seen at the dinner table. Leo, she said, her voice low and dangerous. Are you stupid? Or are you just weak? Stop saying Dad's house. Our names are on it, Leo. Yours and mine. They are the only names on the deed to the structure. His name is nowhere on it. He just gave us the money. It was a gift. A stupid, sentimental gift from a stupid, sentimental old man. I know, but legally the land... Forget the land, she snapped. This is the plan. The simple. The market in Westlake is insane. This house, our house, will sell for $3 million. Easy. Maybe more if we get a bidding war. She stood up and started pacing, energized, her glass of champagne swirling in her hand. We sell it. We pay off the $500,000 we owe the bank. That leaves us with $2.5 million. Clean cash. She stopped pacing and turned to face him. Her smile was predatory. And then, Leo, we split it. Leo just stared at her, completely confused. Split it? What do you mean? We'll buy a new place, right? A smaller place, just for us? Maya let out a short, barking laugh. It was the ugliest sound I had ever heard. Oh, Leo, my sweet, simple Leo. You really don't get it, do you? She walked over and sat down very close to him. She ran a finger down his chest. I mean, she said, saying every single word. We split it. 1.25 million for me, 1.25 million for you. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. And then we get a divorce. I froze. The glass of Macallan in my hand stopped halfway to my lips. My blood went cold. Divorce. On the screen, Leo looked like he had been struck by lightning. His face was a mask of pale, slack-jawed shock. Divorce? He whispered. His voice broke. Maya, what are you talking about? I thought we were doing this for us. For the baby. For our future. I watched the laptop screen, my hand frozen on the glass of whiskey. I watched my son's face, pale and utterly lost. Divorce, he whispered again. Future? Maya, what are you talking about? Maya let out that horrible, cold laugh again. She stood up from the sofa and walked over to the fireplace, running her hand over the expensive marble mantel. Oh, Leo, she said, her voice dripping with a pity that was more cruel than any insult. My sweet, simple, naive Leo, you really believed all that? She turned to face him, her arms crossed, a look of absolute, breathtaking contempt on her face. You really, honestly thought I wanted to have a baby with you? You thought I wanted to ruin my body and spend my 30s changing diapers in this boring suburban house. But you said, Leo stammered, his voice childlike. You said the doctor, the stress? The stress, she barked a single, sharp laugh. The only stress I had was figuring out how to get your senile old father out of my yoga studio. The baby was just a story, Leo, the most obvious story in the world. And you both bought it. God, you Colemans are so predictable. All I had to do was mention a grandchild, and your father practically ran to the basement. She shook her head as if amazed by our stupidity. I needed that 200,000, Leo, she said, her voice turning hard and flat. I needed it to start my handbag business, my real life. But your father, with his name secretly on everything, must have ruined our credit. The bank said no. They rejected the loan. So that just means we have to move to Plan B. Plan B, Leo whispered. He looked like he was going to be sick. Plan B, she confirmed. Sell everything. Liquidate. Get out. I'm done waiting, Leo. I am done living this sad little life with you. Pretending to be a beautiful wife. Pretending to care about your boring job and your pathetic, sad sack father. She picked up her champagne flute and drained it. So here is the new plan. We sell this house. The market is high. We'll get 3 million at least. We pay off the bank's 500,000. That leaves 2.5 million clean. She set the glass down with a sharp click. I take my half, 1.25 million. I am moving to California. I am going to start my business, and I am going to live the life I actually deserve. And you, she said, pointing a finger at him, you can take your 1.25 million and do whatever you want with it. She smiled, a truly venomous, chilling smile. You can go find your father in Florida. You can cry on his shoulder and tell him how sorry you are. Honestly, I don't care what you do. The camera lens was perfectly clear. I watched as the blood drained from my son's face. I watched his hand, the one holding his own champagne flute, go slack. The glass just fell. It didn't shatter. It just thudded onto the expensive Persian rug, champagne splashing onto the carpet and his pants. He didn't even notice. Maya, he said, his voice unrecognizable, a dry, cracked whisper. You've been lying to me this whole time. Our whole marriage. Oh, don't be so dramatic, she scoffed, rolling her eyes. I didn't lie about everything. I liked the house. I liked the money. But you said you loved me. Maya sighed, a sound of deep boredom, as if she was dealing with a toddler. Leo, I needed a partner who could provide this. She gestured around the room. And you, with your rich, sentimental architect father, were the perfect candidate. I've been lying to both of you from the very beginning. She picked up a sushi roll with her fingers. Honestly, the only surprising part is how long it took you to notice. You're both so stupidly trusting. It's almost sad. She bit into the sushi. In my hotel room, I reached out my hand. I didn't make a conscious decision to do it. My hand just moved. I clicked the mouse. The feed went black. The laptop screen reflected my own face, pale, aged, and perfectly, utterly numb. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel rage. That would come later. Right now, all I felt was a deep, echoing emptiness. The humiliation of being locked in the basement, of being called a foolish old man. All of that paled in comparison to the agony I felt in that moment. It wasn't for me. It was for my son. I had just watched his entire life, his entire marriage, everything he believed in, be systematically and cruelly torn apart in front of his eyes by the woman he loved. A woman who saw us both as nothing more than marks, fools to be cheated. I had come on this trip to find out why they were desperate for money. I had found out. I had come to see if I could find a way to fix my family. I had learned there was no family left to fix. There was just a predator and her victim. I stood up. I walked to the massive window of my hotel suite and looked down at the city lights. They thought I was in Florida. They thought I was gone. Maya was planning to sell my house, my land, and disappear with 1.25 million. She thought she had won. She thought the foolish old man was out of the picture. I looked at the phone on the nightstand. I picked it up. My plan had been to catch them in a lie. My plan had been to find out what was going on. My plan had just changed. I knew exactly what I had to do. I slept for the first time in 6 months. I slept a deep, dreamless 8-hour sleep. I woke up in my hotel suite, the morning sun streaming through the massive windows. The city of Austin was already busy below, but I felt nothing.
No rage, no sadness.
The emotional core of me had been burned clean. All that was left was a cold, quiet architectural precision. I had a problem to solve, a structure to demolish. I didn't call Leo. I didn't call Maya. I ordered a full breakfast from room service. Eggs Benedict. I ate every bite. Then I packed my small, sad suitcase, checked out of the $1,000 a night hotel, and got into my old sedan. I didn't drive back to Westlake. I didn't drive to the airport. I pointed my car south toward the I-10, and I drove. The 4-hour drive to Galveston was a blur. I didn't listen to the radio. I just listened to the hum of the engine and the sound of my own thoughts, which were no longer chaotic but were now aligning, one after the other, like steel beams being set into place. As I crossed the causeway onto the island, the air changed. The thick, humid air of Central Texas gave way to the sharp, metallic, salty tang of the Gulf of Mexico. It was the smell of my childhood, the smell of Isabella's favorite vacations. It was the smell of freedom. I met the realtor Brenda at her office. She was exactly as she sounded on the phone. All bright colors and a big, toothy smile. "Mr. Coleman, so glad you could make it down. We've got a wonderful day for house hunting. I've got 3 lovely little retirement bungalows lined up for you, all on one level, very manageable." I shook her hand. "Brenda," I said, my voice flat, "I appreciate that, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not looking for a retirement home." Her smile faltered just for a second. "Oh, but you said on the phone, a place by the sea." "I'm not looking for a place to manage," I said. "I'm not looking for a place to die. I'm looking for a place to live. I'm looking for a fortress." She was a professional. She recovered quickly. "A fortress. I see. Well, I think I have just the thing. It's a bit over the price range you mentioned, but it's unique, and it's all about the view." She drove me to the west end of the island, where the houses were bigger, newer, and built to withstand hurricanes. We pulled up to a house that didn't look like a house at all. It looked like a statement. It was 3 stories of steel and glass rising up from the dunes, a defiant modern cube against the wild open sky. It was magnificent. It was the exact opposite of the Terrytown house I had shared with Isabella. It had no ghosts. It had no memories. "This is Heron's watch," Brenda said, her voice a little breathless, as if she was impressed by it herself. 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, an elevator, and a full glass panoramic view from every single room. We walked inside. The entire south-facing wall, all 3 stories of it, was just glass. Nothing but glass. And beyond it, the vast, endless, churning gray-green of the Gulf of Mexico. It was built on massive concrete pillars, 15 feet above the sand. This house wasn't afraid of the water. It dared the storm to come. It was exactly what I needed. "How much?" I asked, walking out onto the 3rd-floor balcony, the wind whipping my hair. Brenda hesitated. "Well, the owner is asking $3.5 million. I looked out at the ocean. I thought about the $2 million house in Westlake, the house I had paid for that I was currently being kicked out of by my own son. I thought about Maya's $1.25 million exit plan. I thought about the $1.5 million I had given them, money I had earned from 40 years of hard, careful work. Money they had treated like a throwaway gift. "I'll take it," I said. Brenda fumbled with her iPad. "That's wonderful. We can start the pre-approval process right away. I can get your financials to my lender by—" "No," I said, turning to face her.
No lenders, no financing.
This will be a cash purchase. I'll have my attorney, Patrick Croft, Wire the full amount from my trust by end of day tomorrow. I want to close as soon as humanly possible." Brenda's jaw dropped. She looked at me, at my 10-year-old sedan parked in the driveway, at my worn-out shoes, at my sad little suitcase in the trunk, and then back at my face. She was trying to make the pieces fit. I smiled. It was the first real smile I had felt in 6 months. "I've recently liquidated another property." I signed the initial offer right there on the hood of her car. An hour later, I was back in my hotel room in Austin. The contract faxed to Patrick. "Patrick," I said on the phone, "I'm buying a house." "Ben, what? A house? Where? I thought you were in Florida." "I am, in a manner of speaking," I said. "I'm in a hotel. I'm buying a $3.5 million glass fortress in Galveston. I need you to wire the money from the trust's reserve account." There was a long silence. "Ben, are you sure? This is a massive move. This isn't just a reaction. It's a reaction, Patrick. It's the right reaction. I've been sleeping in a concrete box for a week while my son and his predator of a wife drink champagne in my bedroom, in the house I paid for. I am done being the victim. I am done being the foolish old man. I am Benjamin Coleman. I am 70 years old, and I am taking my life back, starting right now. Wire the money." I heard him sigh, and then that low, appreciative chuckle again. "You got it, Ben. Consider it done. The fortress is yours. So what's the next move, General?" I walked out onto the balcony of my hotel suite. The sun was setting over the Austin Hills. The lights of the Westlake mansions, my mansion, were beginning to glitter in the distance. I knew they were in there, Leo and Maya, probably planning their illegal house sale, dreaming of their $1.25 million payouts. They were celebrating, thinking I was 1,000 miles away, defeated. I took a slow sip of my Macallan. "Now, Patrick," I said, a cold, hard calm settling over me. "Now you send the termination notice. Send it by process server tomorrow morning. I want it in their hands while they're still in their bathrobes." I looked out at the lights of my house. "Enjoy the view while you can, Maya," I whispered to the wind. "You have 30 days. I spent 2 days in my new glass fortress, just breathing. I walked on the beach. I ate fresh shrimp. I didn't check the camera. I didn't need to. I had all the evidence I required. I was just waiting, letting the pieces settle, letting them get comfortable in my absence, letting them commit in their minds to their betrayal. On the third morning, I woke up. I made a cup of coffee and walked out onto my new balcony. The ocean was calm. I took a sip. It was time. I dialed Patrick's number. He answered on the first ring. "Patrick," I said, my voice as calm as the sea in front of me. "It's Ben. Send the papers. Send them right now. Certified mail, process server, whatever is fastest and most legally binding. I want that termination notice in their hands today." I heard the satisfaction in his voice. "Right away, Ben. The server is on standby. I'll make the call this instant. Consider it done." I hung up. I didn't need to say anything else. I walked back inside, sat on my new comfortable sofa, and opened my laptop. I pulled up the live feed from the Wise Cam, the little eye hidden in Isabella's book of poetry. The scene in the Westlake house was exactly what I expected. The living room was spotless. Maya was there, dressed not in yoga clothes but in a sharp, expensive-looking white business suit. Leo was beside her, looking nervous, wearing a tie. They were not alone. A woman with a sharp blonde haircut and a leather briefcase was sitting across from them on the sofa. A realtor. They were planning the illegal sale of my house. I watched Maya laugh at something the realtor said, her head thrown back, the picture of the confident, charming homeowner. She was pointing to the new charcoal gray walls of her yoga studio, probably explaining how it added value. Leo was nodding along, playing the part of the supportive husband. They were so close. They could almost taste the 1.25 million. Then, through the camera's wide-angle lens, I saw the front door. A shadow fell across the frosted glass. Then a sharp, firm knock. The three of them in the living room froze. Maya's smile vanished. She looked annoyed, her performance interrupted. "Who on earth is that?" she snapped, standing up. "I told the delivery people no packages during a meeting." I watched her walk to the door. She was out of the camera's frame for a moment, but the microphone was excellent. I heard the lock click. I heard the door swing open. "Can I help you?" Maya's voice was impatient, rude. A deep, unfamiliar male voice responded. "Are you Maya Coleman?" "Yes." "What is this?" "You've been served." The words were flat, professional, unstoppable. "Served." I heard the rustle of papers. "Served with what?" "We didn't order anything." "Is this about the bank?" "I'm just the server, ma'am. Have a nice day." I heard the door close. I watched on my laptop screen as Maya walked back into the living room, a thick legal-sized envelope in her hand. The realtor and Leo were watching her, confused. "What is it, honey?" Leo asked. "Junk mail?" "I don't know," Maya said, tearing the envelope open with her perfectly manicured nails. "It's from some law firm, Croft and Associates." "Who is that?" "Croft," Leo said, his face paling slightly. "That's Dad's lawyer." I watched Maya pull out the thick sheaf of papers. She started to read. The camera was too far away to see the text, but it captured her expression perfectly. I watched her scan the first page, her brow furrowed in confusion. I watched her flip to the second page. Her eyes widened just slightly. I watched her get to the third page, the page that referenced clause for B, the one that mentioned default and termination of lease. I watched the color drain from her face. It didn't just fade. It fell away, leaving her skin a waxy, sickly white. The papers in her hand began to tremble. "What is it?" the realtor asked, starting to look concerned. Maya didn't answer. She just stared at the page, her mouth open, her eyes darting back and forth, reading and rereading the words that didn't make sense. Lease termination, violation, 30 days, remove the property, failure to comply, forfeit. She looked up, not at Leo, not at the realtor, but at the empty space in the room, as if she could feel me watching her. Her face was a mask of pure, uncomprehending horror. "Leo," she shrieked. Her voice a sound I had never heard before, a raw, terrified sound. "Leo, get over here. Get over here right now." I was sitting on the main balcony of my new glass house in Galveston. The sun was warm on my face for the first time in what felt like years. The sound of the surf was a steady, calming whoosh against the pillars. I was halfway through a fresh cup of coffee. My phone sitting on the patio table next to me suddenly began to vibrate. It didn't just vibrate. It skittered and buzzed violently on the glass tabletop, a sound of pure electronic panic. I looked at the screen. "Leo!" I let it ring once, twice. I watched a pelican dive into the surf. On the third ring, I took a slow sip of my coffee. On the fourth ring, I picked it up and pressed the speakerphone button. I wanted him to hear the ocean. I wanted him to know I wasn't in the basement anymore. "Dad, Dad, are you there? What did you do?" His voice was unrecognizable. It wasn't the voice of the confident man who had yelled at me. It was the high, thin, cracking shriek of a terrified child. "What did you do?" "A man just came here. He gave us papers. He said you're suing us, Dad." "What is this?" "The papers say we have to move the house." He was screaming now, hysterical. "Is this a joke? What kind of sick joke is this? Tell me it's a joke." I looked out at the horizon. "It's not a joke, Leo," I said. My voice was perfectly level, and the sound of the waves rolled in steadily behind my words. It's called breach of contract. Contract? What contract? He yelled. We don't have a contract. What are you talking about? The 99-year land lease, son, I said, my voice cold and clear. The one you and Maya signed when you accepted my $1.5 million. The agreement for the land, Leo. The land your precious house is currently sitting on. The land that belongs and has always belonged to the Coleman Family Trust. My trust. I let that sink in. I could hear his sharp, ragged breathing. And you violated it, I continued. Clause 4B. I'm sure Maya is reading it right now. No additional financial burdens. You tried to take out a $200,000 second mortgage on my property. You did it behind my back. You violated the terms. So I'm ending the lease. Effective immediately. I heard a muffled sound. A crash, like a phone being dropped. Then I heard her. Maya was screaming in the background. Not at me, but at Leo, her voice a raw, furious shriek. He's lying. He's a lying, senile old man. He can't do this. I checked the deed. I saw it. Our names are on the deed to the house. He's lying. I waited patiently until her screaming died down into sobs. She's right, Leo, I said calmly into the phone. What? He whispered. She's right. Your names are absolutely on the deed to the house. You own the structure 100%. You just don't own the land it's sitting on. And your lease for that land has just been ended. I took a sip of my coffee. It was still warm. You have 30 days, I said. 30 calendar days to move your house. Physically. Lift the entire structure off my foundation and move it somewhere else. Good luck with that. If you fail to comply and that $2 million house is still on my land at 5 p.m. on the 30th day, it defaults to me. The house, the fixtures, the overpriced appliances, everything becomes the sole property of my trust. Free and clear. There was a long, terrible silence. I heard a sound like a gasp, a high, strangled sob, probably from Maya. Finally, Leo's voice came back. It was no longer angry. It was the voice of a man who had just fallen from a great height. Dad, he whispered. Dad, please. You can't do this to us. We're family. I let his desperate word hang in the salty air. Family, I repeated. My voice was flat, devoid of all emotion. I just looked out at the waves. That's an interesting word, Leo. It's not the word Maya was using the other night when she was drinking my champagne in my room, celebrating the fact that I was gone. I could hear his sharp, confused intake of breath on the other end of the line. What? Dad, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. She's just stressed, Dad. The baby, she just says things she doesn't mean when she's stressed. Stressed, I repeated. Yes, I suppose she is. You know what, Leo? Hold on a minute. I didn't wait for a reply. I just pressed the red end call button. The line went dead. I sat there on my balcony, the ocean breeze feeling good on my face. I opened my laptop. The live feed from the Wisecam was still running. It showed chaos. Maya was pacing back and forth in the living room, gesturing wildly at Leo. Leo was staring, horrified, at his phone. They were trapped. They knew something terrible was happening, but they didn't know what I knew. I didn't need the live feed anymore. I had what I needed. I went to the saved recordings folder in the app. There it was. Front door. Motion detected 2 nights ago. I was an architect. I was precise. I didn't want the whole 4-hour file. I just wanted the point. I dragged the file onto my desktop and opened my simple video editing software. I found the timestamp, 8:31 p.m. I started the clip right at Maya's triumphant toast. To Florida, her voice said, clear as a bell from my laptop speakers. May he enjoy the sunshine and stay there indefinitely. I included Leo's nervous reply, and then I included her speech. I watched it again as I edited. Pregnant? Are you crazy? Of course I'm not pregnant. The foolish old man is down in the basement, right where he belongs. We sell this house, $3 million. We pay off the bank. That leaves $2.5 million clean. I take my half, $1.25 million, and we get a divorce. You really, honestly thought I wanted to have a baby with you? I've been lying to both of you from the very beginning. You're both so stupidly trusting. It's almost sad. I clipped it, the whole confession, the whole poisonous, pure truth. 2 minutes and 12 seconds of pure venom. I saved the new file to my desktop. I named it The Truth. I opened my messaging app. I selected Leo's contact. I attached the video file. The upload bar filled slowly. It was done. I typed 4 simple words. Family, son. I hit send. I watched the delivered notification appear. I didn't wait for the read receipt. I didn't want to be there for the explosion. I stood up. I turned my phone completely off. Not on silent. Off. The connection to their world was severed. I left the laptop in my suite, took the elevator down to the lobby, and walked out onto the beach. I slipped off my new shoes and walked onto the hard, wet sand near the waterline. I walked for a very long time. The tide was coming in. The cool Gulf water washed over my ankles. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't care. I thought about Leo. I knew what watching that video would do to him. It would be like watching his own life burn down in real time. Part of me, the father deep inside, felt a terrible, sharp pang of guilt. I had just handed my son a live grenade. But the other part of me, the part that had shivered in that damp concrete cellar, the part that had listened to my wife's memory be boxed up and shoved aside, that part knew it was the only way. Leo was weak. He had followed Maya blindly, choosing her cruelty over his own father. The only way to save him, if he could be saved at all, was to burn away the lie. He had to see her, not the woman he loved, but the predator who was using him. I walked until the sun was high and hot in the sky. I had walked for miles. I felt empty but clean. I finally turned around and walked back to my glass fortress. I got back to my suite, took a shower, and put on clean clothes. I sat on the sofa. My phone was sitting on the table, dark and silent. It had been. I checked the clock on the wall. Almost an hour and a half since I had sent the message. I picked it up. I held my thumb over the power button. I took a deep breath. I pressed it. The screen lit up. The phone vibrated. It didn't just vibrate. It shuddered, rattling violently against the glass table as the notifications flooded in, one after another, a cascade of pure panic. 32 missed calls from Leo, 14 new text messages. The lock screen was a chaotic waterfall of notifications. I tapped the screen, my hand steady. The messages were a timeline of his complete unraveling. Dad, pick up, please. What was that? What was that video? Dad, call me. We need to talk now. I'm watching it. Dad, this isn't real. This isn't real. I saw it. All of it. Dad, I didn't know. I swear to God. I didn't know. She's gone, Dad. She left. Please. I'm alone. Pick up. Please, Dad. I'm begging you. Call me. I took a steadying breath. I pressed his name. It didn't even complete a full ring. He snatched the phone up so fast it was just a sharp click. Dad. It wasn't his voice. Not the voice of the angry, entitled man who had banished me to the cellar. It was the voice of a 10-year-old boy. It was a sob torn from his chest. Dad, I saw it. He wept, the words thick and choked. I saw the video. I said nothing. I just listened to the sound of my son's world collapsing. I didn't know, he choked out. I swear to God, Dad. I had no idea. Divorce. She was planning to leave me. She never wanted a baby. The realization hit him again. A fresh wave of agony. "Oh my God," he whispered, his voice cracking completely. "I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid." I believed her. I believed all of it. I stood on my balcony, the warm sun on my face, the sound of the surf in the background. I felt a cold, hard stillness inside me. "Yes, Leo," I said, my voice as flat and calm as the horizon. "You were." "She's gone," he said, the words tumbling out. "She's gone." I showed her the video. I asked her if it was true. I thought she'd deny it. "I thought you'd faked it somehow." He took a ragged, desperate breath. "She didn't deny it, Dad. She didn't even. She just laughed." He was sobbing openly now, ugly, raw sounds. "She laughed at me. She asked me if I was really that stupid. And when I tried to grab her arm, she slapped me hard. She called me a weak, pathetic coward. She said I was just as bad as my foolish old father. And then she grabbed her purse, that orange one, the one I thought I bought her for her birthday, and she just walked out. She's gone. I'm here. I'm just alone, Dad." I let the silence sit. I let him feel it. The emptiness of the 2 million house. The silence of the woman he had betrayed his own father for. "And the money," he whispered, his voice changing. The heartbreak was fading, replaced by a new, sharper, colder terror. "Dad, I checked. I checked the joint accounts, the savings. It's empty. She drained it. It's all gone. She must have been moving it for weeks. All my savings, everything I thought we had, it's gone." Another pause. I could hear the click as his mind finally connected the dots. "Dad," he said, his voice now a terrified, childlike plea. "The papers, the termination notice. Are you really taking the house? Because if you take the house, I have nowhere to go.
I'm ruined, Dad.
I'll be on the street. I have no money. I'm in so much debt. The credit cards. She maxed them all out.
I'm ruined."
I listened to my 40-year-old son, the man who had ordered me out of my own home, now begging me not to leave him homeless. He was a fool. He was pathetic. He was broken. I let out a long, slow sigh, the salt air filling my lungs. He was still my son. I let him cry. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. I didn't offer comfort because he hadn't earned it. I just stood on my sunny balcony, holding my phone, and listened to the sound of my 40-year-old son hitting rock bottom. It was a terrible, raw sound, but it was the first honest sound I had heard from him in 6 months. When his sobs finally subsided into wet, ragged gasps, I spoke. "As for Maya," I said, my voice quiet but hard as the concrete I had been sleeping on, "I don't care. She can go to California. She can go to hell. She's a predator, and she's no longer your problem or mine." "But, Dad," he whispered, "the house. You're really gonna take the house? I have nowhere. She's gone." "Leo," I said, cutting him off, "you are still my son." There was a long pause. He was waiting. I was waiting. I wasn't going to save him, not completely. But I wasn't Maya. I wouldn't throw my family out onto the street, even one who had done it to me. "I'm in Galveston, Leo," I said. "I bought a house, a new one. It's smaller than the one in Westlake, but it has a small guest room on the first floor." I let the words sink in. "You can come here," I continued. "You can stay in that room temporarily until you get a job, until you get back on your feet, until you figure out how to be an adult." The silence on the other end was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the shush of the waves behind me. When he finally spoke, his voice was a broken whisper, filled with a disbelief that was, for the first time, genuine. "Dad," he choked, "you would do that for me? After what I did? After God?" After I yelled at you. After I let her put you in the basement. His voice broke on the last word. The full weight of his own monstrous behavior was finally crushing him. Don't misunderstand me, Leo, I said, and my voice was cold. I needed him to understand. This is not forgiveness. Not yet. This is a lifeline, not a rescue. This is not, everything is okay. It is not. This is an opportunity. It is the very last one you will get from me. You are my son. You carry my name and you carry Isabella's name. And you have dishonored us both. You were weak when you should have been strong. You were cruel when you should have been kind. You chose a liar over your own blood. I took a breath. You want to come here? Fine. But you come here with nothing. You don't come here as my son the heir. You come here as a man who has to start over from zero. You will work. I don't care what it is. You'll get a job scrubbing dishes at the restaurant down the street if you have to. You will pay for your own food. You will do your own laundry. You will prove to me, and more importantly, you will prove to yourself that you are worthy of the name Coleman. That you are something more than that woman's pathetic, spineless fool. I let the harsh words land. I needed them to. He needed to hear them. He needed to be stripped bare of every last excuse. This is not a handout, Leo, I finished. This is basic training for your own soul. You will earn your keep. You will earn my respect. You will start over. Another long, heavy silence. I listened. I heard him take a single shuddering breath. It was the sound of a man making a choice, the sound of a man at a crossroads. One path leading to the gutter, the other leading to this one last difficult chance. Dad, he whispered. He had to clear his throat and start again. I'm packing a bag. I'll drive down. I'm leaving right now. I'll be there. I'll be there in 4 hours. The 30 days passed like a legal formality. The law was the law. Patrick handled everything. On the 30th day, exactly as the termination notice said, the $2 million house in Westlake and everything attached to it legally defaulted to the Coleman Family Trust. To me, the first thing I did was hire a locksmith. I didn't go myself. I didn't want to see the empty rooms, the yoga studio, the basement. I just had the locks changed. The second thing I did was call the realtor. It's on the market as of today, I told her. The market in Westlake was, as Maya had correctly predicted, insane. It didn't even last a week. A tech executive from California bought it in a cash deal. $3.1 million. Patrick handled the closing. We paid the outstanding $500,000 mortgage that Leo and Maya had taken out, the debt that had started this whole mess. When the dust settled, $2.6 million remained. I had Patrick deposit every single cent of it directly into the Coleman Family Trust. I had my money back and then some. Leo arrived at my new house in Galveston 4 hours after that last broken phone call, just as he said he would. He showed up in his Tesla, the only thing Maya hadn't figured out how to drain, with a single duffel bag. He looked hollowed out, gaunt. The arrogance and impatience he had worn for the last 2 years were gone, replaced by a deep, profound, and terrified shame. Those first few weeks were awkward, a painful silence filling the vast modern spaces of my new home. We were two strangers, father and son, orbiting each other. I didn't push him. I just let him be. I bought groceries. I cooked simple meals. We ate in silence. He spent most of his time walking. He'd leave early in the morning and walk for hours along the beach, just staring at the surf. He looked like a man trying to remember who he was, or perhaps trying to forget. He lost weight.